So this morning we have a dual session. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to give the stage over to Eric, and he is going to give a presentation on 2 case studies on pricing. And then Kadra from Zillow is going to join us on stage. We're going to do a fireside chat. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A with both of them. So hold your questions until the end, unless they're just burning desires, and then we'll get your questions answered if you have to have it answered immediately. So I'm going to welcome to the stage Eric Delancey. If you were in the executive forum, you heard his overview of pricing theory, and those types of things. So what I asked him to do is I said, can you give me 2 case studies so we can take this information and understand the logic for these 2 different case studies, and then maybe we can use that and apply it to different things as we're making pricing decisions in our homes and model homes. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of your way and hand the stage over.
Thanks. So my name's Eric Delancey. I'm a marketing professor at Brock University. I teach courses in marketing, general marketing, like intro to marketing. I also teach courses in pricing. One of the courses I teach, actually, when Deanna asked me to offer case studies, I teach a whole course in case studies. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you something to read and then come up with a recommendation for a company. I'm going to take you through 2 pricing cases, examples, whatever you want to call them. To begin with, in case you haven't seen me speak at this conference yet, I just want to give you a quick overview of where I'm coming from with regard to price, because it might be different from the way you're looking at price. So I teach value-based pricing. This is different from cost-based pricing, which everyone pretty much is familiar with. You take what it costs you to acquire a product, you add a margin, and you set a price accordingly. Value-based pricing looks at what the customer values the product at and pricing according to that. This is proven to be more profitable because you are getting more money from the customer because they are paying what they're willing to pay, as opposed to a price that's based only on your costs. You can harvest more of the value you've created. So in improving your product and improving your company, you have made your products more valuable. You can acquire more of the money for that. But it is a more involved process. There's a lot more to do to understand how customers value the product that you're selling, and as a result, the more effort you're willing to put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. The 2 cases I have today, one is a more involved example and one is a less involved example. Case A, we're talking about built-in speakers in the home. Okay, so I use this as an example. You have to determine, what are you going to charge as a builder for built-in speakers? Well, you understand what it costs you to acquire this speaker system. You understand what it costs you to install this speaker system. But you may not understand how much it's worth to the customer to have a built-in speaker system, an indoor-outdoor, single control, you can work it from an app speaker system. So the problem is, you can't go to a customer and say, hey, how much would you be willing to pay for this? Because the customer doesn't know either. They've probably never thought of this, and they have a very poor conception. We as consumers, all of us, are not great at creating products, creating prices. If you were to say, how much should I charge for this? That's a difficult question to answer. If you said, hey, I could charge $300 for this, or I could charge $400 for this, which is more appropriate, that's an easier question to answer, and we're going to come back to that idea in a few minutes. The manner in which you devise the value for a product is called VTC, value to the customer. And there are 4 steps, which you can see on the slide. First, you have to determine a comparison product. You have to say, they could get the built-in speakers in the home, or they could do X. They could not get them. They could go aftermarket. They could get a bunch of Google Homes. Whatever it is, there's some sort of comparison point. What you want that comparison point to be is to be what the customer would do if they didn't buy the product. Okay? Not what you would recommend them to do necessarily, not whatever else is on the market, but what would they do? And you know what that costs. You know what 6 Google Homes cost. So then you identify all of the differences between your built-in speaker system and this other solution. And these differences can be positive and negative. Okay, built-in is more aesthetically pleasing. The Google Homes can do more than play music. There's all these different things. Some are very rational. I don't have to worry about getting it installed if it's built into the home. Some of them are very emotional. Well, this is more compatible with my IT ecosystem that I use for my computer and for my various devices. Okay? This is important for the next step because what you have to do is value those differences. Again, some will be objective. I know it will cost me X amount of dollars to install this in my home after I take possession. Others are more subjective. I really like how it looks built into the wall versus having it on a table. And that's where the tricky part is how do you value these subjective elements, experiences, product features, aesthetics, and that's what I'm going to dive into in the next couple slides. Once you've got those differences, you sum it all up and you get a number, okay? So let's say you get a number of $700. What that means is, if the comparison point is the price that it is, your product is worth $700, which may be more or less. So let's say our comparison point for built-in speakers is aftermarket speakers. You're going to buy them, you're going to mount them on the wall yourself, or you're going to hire an electrician to come in and do it. Some points of difference are the fact that you have to get it installed after the fact, the aesthetics, whether it's in or on the wall, does the wiring show, what brand is it? All of these things can be points of differences. Some of them are going to be advantages for built-in, some of them are going to be advantages for aftermarket. As I said, some of these differences are objective, some are subjective. So how do you measure it? Well, there's a research tool called conjoint analysis. And I'm not going to get too technical here because I know that's not what you're interested in. But what it does is it asks people to compare products. So what you would be saying is, which do you prefer? An HTD brand built-in speaker in 4 rooms for $700 or a Bose system with tabletop speakers in 3 rooms for $1,200. And you ask customers to make these comparisons over and over again, depending on how deep you want to go, 20 or 30 comparisons, and from there you can tease out what it is, what elements, how many rooms, whether it's on the table or built in, whatever else, what each of those are worth in terms of price. So this is a way you can actually measure some of these subjective elements. So as I said, you get this end result. Your product is $700. The comparison product is what it is, and your unit cost is, let's say, $200. You can price anywhere between $200 and $700. You can't price lower than $200. That's your cost. You can't price higher than the value to the customer because you have determined this is what they're willing to pay. If you price more than that, they're exchanging more money than the value they're getting back. Okay, so you get this VTC number, this value to the customer number, and this provides you a range. Where you should price within this range, that's where things like competition comes in. That's where things like your other goals. Are you trying to move units? Have you bought a whole bunch of these speaker systems and you're just trying to get them out of your warehouse? Okay? Are you trying to differentiate different models because this comes with it and that doesn't come with it? There's all these other strategic, competitive, qualitative factors that will determine where in that range you're going to price, but this has now provided you information about where you can price. What you don't want to do is offer equivalent value for money. So here is a built-in system I found online. It costs $700, or you can buy 6, home assistants for $360, and let's say these are equal. You've done your analysis, you started with the home assistants, and you determined you're better in these ways, and that brings your value up to $700. So I'd say you could buy the option on the left or the option on the right. And if they're equivalent value for money, that's a hard choice to make. You don't want to give customers a hard choice to make. You want to give them an easy choice to make. So if they're equivalent, now they're like, I don't know which one I should buy. Maybe I won't go for the built-in because it's just as good if I get this other thing. And so that's why you don't want to price at or above the VTC itself. That's the first example. I've numbed you all with different types of analyses and different ways of looking at this. Case B is a lot simpler. That's why I put it second. Okay, so case B, let's say it's a whole home security. How do you know the value for this product? Well, you could do what we just did with the speakers. We could find a comparison product. We could go through all of these steps. But there's a simpler way to do it. Like anything else that's simpler, you may not get as much value for yourself out of it at the end. But all this takes is 2 questions. You ask customers, is this price too high? You give them a price, You say, is this price too high for what you're getting for whole home security? And you give them that price and say, is this price so low as to raise questions about the quality of this product? So now what you're doing is you're trying to find out the most customers are willing to pay, the highest price you can charge, and the lowest price you can charge before they start to question whether this is worth getting. And you use these numbers to build a matrix. Now, the next slide I'm going to show you is going to look very technical. It's not. I'm going to walk you through it in about 2 minutes. Okay? The math is addition, subtraction, maybe a bit of multiplication. But basically, all this matrix I'm going to show you says is how many buyers you would have at each price that you've asked based on these two questions. From there, you can determine which of these prices is most profitable. So here's this. Oh, sorry. I got to go back. Here's this slide I was talking about. So let's say you asked about the prices. That's the column on the left. Okay, so these are the prices, $35 through $65, and you have your data. You've polled 200 people. You know, no one said $35 was too expensive. One person said $38 was too expensive. 7 people said $41 was too expensive. The next column over does this say the quality is too low? Okay, 5 people said if it was $35, they'd have questions about whether this was worth buying. 14 people said if it was $38. So you get these numbers. You can convert them to percentages, which are the next 2 columns, and then you get a cumulative number. So if you look at the column I've marked A, all that is saying is by $44, 17% of people have said this is too expensive. It's cumulative. Okay? By $56, 78% of people, 78.5% of people said this is too expensive. Column B is the same thing, but from the bottom up, because it's the opposite. It's saying the price is too low. If you take column A and column B and add them together, you get how many people are saying they won't buy it, either because the price is too high or because the price is too low. If you know how many people won't buy it, then you know how many people might be willing to buy it, which is the column of interest. That's your column D. Column D is saying, based on these questions, at $44, 8% of the people I polled might buy this product. Okay? And from there, if you multiply it by the price you're charging, you can get how much money you're going to make, which shows in this example, $50 is the sweet spot. Combination of the price you're charging at $50 and the number of people who are willing to buy at that price, that's where you can make the most money. Very simple. 2 questions, you build this matrix, which, you know, math-wise, my 12-year-old daughter could build this if I walked her through how to do it, because it's just addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And you can figure out where is that sweet spot to charge. Now, what doesn't this tell you that the first example does? You haven't done any digging into why people value it at that price. You haven't done any digging into why people might have questions about quality based around what you might be charging. And so you don't have all this other information you can use in your marketing materials, you can use in your sales process, you can use in terms of communicating with the customer and understanding the customer. But what you do have is a simple way to determine what might be the optimal price. So it's a shortcut to determining value. Okay? Like any shortcut, there are pluses and minuses. A lot less involved, a lot less research you got to do, but also a lot less value you're getting out of this process. You don't get that depth of having done the value to customer analysis, because you're not going to understand from this what are the drivers of value. So the key takeaways here, if you listen to nothing else I say, price based according to value, or at least consider incorporating value into your price and not just based on cost. Value is knowable. You can do research, complex research, simple research to determine value. Okay? And using different processes will yield different outcomes, and you have to decide which process is the best for you. I'm happy to discuss this further with you offline. My contact information is on the slide, but I do want to keep this session going and allow Deanna to bring up the next participant as well. So thank you for your attention. I'll be available for questions at the end.
You want to do questions now so you can, they report?
Oh, if you prefer.
Yeah, I think it'll make it easier.
Oh, sure.
On you.
Yeah, I'll take questions now, and then I'll leave because I have a flight.
I changed the game plan on everybody because I know he has to catch a flight. So if you have questions, Raise your hand so that we can get the microphone to you. In the meantime, here's what I took away, because this is what I do for a living, is I do qualitative and quantitative research for consumers. So here's what I learned, is that ask about the numbers, but don't forget to have conversations with them about why it matters.
Yes.
And this is a lot of the conversations we've had with different builders and different people around throughout the sessions that we've had, is that talking to the consumer, your sales team and whoever is talking to your consumer on a day-to-day basis, if you don't have a feedback loop in place with your sales team to say, this is what I'm hearing from the consumer, you're missing your own qualitative feedback cycle where you can say, you know, we keep trying to sell this speaker system and nobody's buying it. Right? Well, why not? Have we asked them why? And so if you keep hearing that information and your sales team keeps telling you this, maybe you're getting the feedback from your realtors that like, nobody wants the shag carpet. I keep making fun of shag carpet. I'm sorry, I'll stop doing it. But if you can call me and I'll do the numbers for you, I'll do surveys for you all day long. But what I found is that asking the consumer why, what do you need? Why don't you want this? Why do you want this? And then having all that information being funneled back to you really helps your decision making.
I would go one step further. I don't know if this is done in the housing industry, but at the end saying, by the way, go to our website and fill out this survey, please, does not work. Okay? If I go somewhere and I have the whole conversation, I buy something, and then they say, by the way, please go to our website and fill out this survey, or here's a QR code, please fill out our survey. I'm never doing that. But if they say, what brought you in here today? Or what about this product is appealing to you or something, I'll have that conversation in person. Again, more effortful, takes more time, but you're going to get a lot more value out of it.
Yeah. And then looking at this chart.
Yes.
Another thing that I took away from this was you're not going to get 100% of people on the same page.
Oh, never.
But you can find the optimal range, or you can be okay. I've actually had conversations with people. They're like, I don't need 100%. I need 15%. 15% is what I'm aiming for. I don't need 100% of my market. I need 15% of my market, because that's how many homes I have to sell, right? Or that's how many speaker systems I have to install, or whatever it might be.
Well, the other thing that this shows is, yes, the percent of people is important, but that's multiplied by what you're charging for it, by the price. So you may actually be more profitable selling fewer units if you can sell them at a higher price. And I have lots of data that we can talk about again offline, and examples and such where you make more money by lowering the price. And that's counterintuitive for a lot of people, because this idea of market share is ingrained in us. As I tell my students, you're not in the business of selling units, you're in the business of making money. And if you can make more money selling fewer units of different finishes or whatever, then do that, as opposed to lowering the price just so you can move more units through and make less money.
So there's margin and there's market share. And they do this, right?
Yep.
And they might get you the same dollar, and they might get you more dollars or less dollars, right?
Yep.
Fantastic. Any questions from the audience before we let Eric run to his flight?
For those of you who weren't in the executive forum the other day, I am the director of industry relations for Zillow New Construction, which basically means I'm kind of the external face of the business. I do this for a living. Lots of speaking, lots of work with home builder associations, with specific builders throughout the country. We work with pretty much all of the big production builders, and kind of maintain those relationships as well.
So you could say that you are their expert in all things new.
I mean,
not
you could say
used.
that.
What was the word from Monday?
Used.
Not used.
Right.
But new, right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of a Zillow generalist. We know Zillow's strategy internally, and we can kind of speak to what we're up to, because we get a lot of questions about that.
So a lot of what we want to talk about today, and this is an open forum, I have questions for her, but if you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get them answered on the spot for you. But today what we really wanted to do was to talk about home buying habits and how home buying truly is personal for the consumer before you ever see them in real life. And a lot of times they're using Zillow to educate themselves. And so you'll see some slides scrolling through just to give you a couple of insights, but we're really here to sort of just talk about the different pieces of how the home buying process is personal. So can you give me a little bit of an overview of how it's personalized from the start and what you're learning at Zillow and how they're going about making it personal for themselves.
Yeah, well, all of us are consumers first, right? So if you think about how we consume goods and services, it's every single thing that we use is personalized to us. So Instagram's personalized to us, Amazon's personalized to us. And so Zillow knows that regardless of the industry that we're interacting it with, we want this kind of continuous, personalized experience. And so real estate falls right into that too. So we're doing things like getting a deeper sense of home. We're serving up properties to buyers that they've kind of expressed interest in as they search. And we're getting smarter and our AI is getting smarter and smarter and smarter on how they can serve up those suggestions. So it's a kind of a constant thing because we keep learning more about what they want. This slide's actually perfect. Better filters, multi-region searches. You don't just have to search in one market anymore. You can search in up to 5. We're serving them personalized search experiences with things that they might like. So if you think about from a builder standpoint, if you can get their eyeballs right from the get-go, then we're going to start serving them more and more and more of similar properties.
So what do you feel like is the first piece of information that's being filtered? Like, is there like a sense of like, I have to be in this location? Are we still feeling like location's like the number one? Mm-hmm. Or is it like, I have to have a certain amount of bedrooms? Do you have insight into that?
I think it's kind of all of those things. We know that floor plans are, especially for new construction buyers, that's what's gonna grab them. That's what's gonna make sure that they continue to look at that particular builder or whatever, because that's the floor plan that I need.
Yeah.
Affordability is big these days, right? Now that we've kind of all gone remote and we can live many of us can live wherever we want, affordability is a really big key too.
So are you seeing a lot of people sitting in Seattle looking for places in Idaho?
We have all that data. I don't know it off the top of my head, but yes, we can see where somebody starts their search and where they end up buying by zip code.
That's fascinating.
It is.
Ooh, fun.
Yes.
So
yes.
Go ahead.
Is there some sort of progression? Like the first thing should be some beautiful picture of the outside, this, and this, and this. What is it that gets their attention initially, in addition to what are all the things that people want to see that helps move along?
So the question was, just in case you couldn't hear him, was what's the ideal first image that they see that catches the attention versus what are the additional information? So is it the elevation? Is it the floor plan? Is it the great room? Like that's really what you're trying to ask there? Yep, okay.
Yeah, so you're gonna wanna showcase whatever the highlight of the house is. So I would say either the kitchen or the front exterior. But if you got kind of a blah front exterior, I don't know if that's where you want to lead. Kitchens are always a big deal. Think of even when you're shopping for homes, that's the next showstopper.
Yeah. And then I've been thinking a lot lately about how we used to shop for homes and how we shop for homes now.
As in, you have to go to them?
Yeah, that. I was thinking about getting in a car with the real estate agent and driving around,
yeah.
Right? That used to be the way everybody did it. That was the first thing, right? Was you found your real estate agent and then you drove around with them.
With their MapQuest instructions?
Yeah, like print it out and then like turn left.
If you missed it, turn,
nope,
you
it
were
was
in
back
big trouble.
there. Yeah,
yes.
Okay. And then I remember when early 2020, the keyless entries had been talked about, but then they were like the gateway, right? Like if you didn't have one set up, how are you going to let people in? And so then it became the safety zone to let people in. So as people are shopping online now and they're starting online, how are some of those shopping behaviors changing and how is that influencing what the consumer sees and what they desire?
Yeah, we're also seeing a major generational shift in home buyers. So you've got millennials. I talked about this on Monday too. The millennial generation is in their prime home buying years right now, and there's 46 million of them between 28 and 36. And they shop way differently than we do. We as in the older generation. I'm gosh.
Yeah.
So we have found through all of our surveys and our studies that they really want all the tools to do the research on their own. And so we've got to start doing that just by how we grab their eyeballs on online shopping portals. They want all of the research, they want to do it on their own, but we know that they still want that human interaction when they're ready to take next steps. So I think that's really important. But things like self-tour are huge right now. Zillow's actually going all in on our self-tour product because they want to go on their own time. They don't want somebody following them around through a house. They don't want to be sold anything, but they do want to go see these properties and then raise their hand when they're ready for somebody to take them on the next step.
So what I'm taking away from that is when consumers show up, they're more educated.
You could say that, yeah.
They already kind of know what you offer. It's rare that somebody's going to walk in the front door and be like, "What you got here?"
For sure.
And not already kind of know that. So
Yeah.
if you were somebody who was staffing a sales team for a builder, for example, what would you think would be the first step when you come in? Like the consumer already knows. Let's just assume they know where you're at because they made it there, right? They've probably seen whatever's on your website or whatever's on Zillow, correct? So like, do you assume that the consumer needs
Never
all
assume
the information?
Never assume anything about a consumer.
So the first thing is ask them what they already know and ask them what they need?
I think so. We talked about this Monday in the executive forum as well. You really need to direct consumers on how to proceed. And they might know a lot about the property. They might really like the floor plan, but they don't necessarily, and buying a new home is a very different animal than buying a resale. Yeah. So, you probably need to walk them through what the process is going to look like.
Yeah. Okay. And then as you are looking, so back to the question on what's making them interested, if you were to give advice to builders, what has to be on the listing? Like what's the nice to have, but what has to be there? Like if you only get to pick like 5, like what would be the top 5 that have to be there and then everything else that's not moving the needle as much?
Yeah. You need more than 10 photos. If you want to grab eyeballs, and now is the best time that new construction has ever had to compete with resale homes. So if you want to grab those eyeballs, you've got to compete with resale homes on online shopping portals. So photos. Our research shows that between 20 and 50 photos is optimal. And that's what resale listings are going to have. Enriched media content is the next kind of must-have. So your 3D tours, interactive floor plans are huge if you can do them. Zillow has a free interactive floor plan product because buyers want it. And so that rich media content used to be a nice to have. Now that we are through the pandemic, home shoppers have really gotten used to that, and they're demanding that of their listings. You're seeing stats on some of these slides that they're getting 68% more saves if there's a 3D tour on a listing, and page views, and like 38% more saves. So it's a significant number when you're trying to compete for those more limited eyeballs right now in a challenging market.
No, for sure. And so when you talk about photos, we're talking about staged, well-lit, professional photos, not Deanna walking through being like, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about like multiple photos in each room, multiple angles. It can't just be any photos. We've got to get them good. We've got to get them right.
Yeah, new construction. I look on Zillow on new construction a lot, obviously, but there is nothing more frustrating than when you look at photos of a half-built home with dirt lot, and that's it. And think of how that you're never going to win that consumer over when that's what's showing up.
Yeah.
That's their first impression.
Yeah, so dirt lot's not the ideal
I
first
don't think
photo.
it's the most beautiful. No.
I mean, I do love a good dirt lot and some boots and trunching through it, but that might not be ideal. I'm a very weird consumer, as we're learning. And we do there's a couple people I've talked to while we've been here. They help do virtual or AI staging. ODA, who's going to be here at lunch, they help fill in the gaps, right? So even if it's not built, there's tons of virtual options out there now that can help you get the consumer there visually if the current state is a dirt lot, right?
Yeah.
Like there's other ways for us to get there.
That is the newest, coolest. I've been to a couple of kind of prop tech conferences this year, and I would say far and away the coolest technology that's coming out of those is this virtual staging technology. People can build you a Matterport type home from a dirt lot and stage it, and it looks beautiful, and that is going to win eyeballs.
Yes, for sure.
Yep.
And so let's talk a little bit about, Zillow's known for helping the consumer. Let's talk about how Zillow helps builders. Can you walk me through some of the tools, some of the things that builders can use to tap into the Zillow?
Yeah, so we've got I've got sales guys next door in the expo hall if you're interested in more information when that opens, because they're really the experts. But we've got 2 different products that we offer to builders. One is called Promoted Communities. That's kind of the gateway onto the Zillow platform. Promoted Communities helps new homes show up alongside resale listings, but it's built specifically for new construction. So you can highlight your community, your map dots show up alongside resale, but they've got a little new construction tag on them. You can highlight buildable plans. So it's just a really robust product specifically made for community builders. The other product is called Builder Boost, and I'm finding this is really popular right now because it's more of a branding play. You can target specific markets. If you want to hit, a subsegment of renters, you can target renters with this advertising, and it shows up as one of the tiles when you search. It looks like a home tile, but it's really for a branding purposes. It's paid advertisement, but it's really popular right now.
So how do builders sort of activate those things?
We do it for you. We just
So they call you?
Yeah, you just call us.
Okay.
We'll walk you through it.
They don't have to do it themselves. They can just call you and you guys will help.
We've got a
Okay.
massive team of people that can help
Okay.
get all that stuff online.
And so how does it show up differently to the consumer? So because I'm thinking about, my little neighborhood and I see a little new construction tag, but now it's multiple dots. How does it show up differently to the consumer if you use the promoted communities or Builder Boost? What's that visually?
So Builder Boost, again, is going to be one of those little tiles. So when you search for homes in Denver,
just, pop
Colorado,
up.
it pops up as one of the tiles.
Okay.
And then Promoted Communities, it really shows up just like another listing, a resale listing would, but it's got a little new construction tag so that when you click into that dot, you can see available homes, buildable plans, pricing, and there are companies now, Zonda's got a great product that does interactive maps, so you can actually map an entire community as well.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's dig into the details a little bit of home design and how that flows into what gets posted here. So is it, we talked about you've got to have the kitchen. If you just have a normal kitchen, or does it have to meet all the expectations of the consumer? Is it, we had a session yesterday at lunch about kitchens and baths, and we were talking about, you want your model home to be good but not perfect because you can't check everybody's boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, does it matter that the visual that they're seeing matches every single one of their expectations, or does it just need to look good?
That's a great question. I don't know that we actually have specific data on does it just need to look good.
Yeah.
I would say yes. I think the last couple years in this crazy market have had home buyers really having to sacrifice on what they want and pay more for what they don't want. Going into a little bit more challenging market, I think every little thing is going to be important, but we know that certain things are more important. Smart home technology is a must-have. Kitchens and baths, I don't know that they have to be the highest quality, but buyers of new homes they tend to want new homes for a reason, and they want those more current trends. And so, most builders are reflecting those current trends regardless of the kind of price points.
So what I'm hearing is own what you're really good at. You already have a leg up by default because you're new.
Yeah.
So then highlight those pieces of the puzzle.
Completely. It's interesting though, we've learned, when I was digging into all the research for this week, we're learning that industry-wide, we're seeing that buyers that are taking the next steps are acting with a little more urgency. They want to close within 30 to 90 days. And so the moral of the story that I was giving on Monday was the majority of our new construction, new listings to Zillow are buildable plans. But there's markets where it's taking 18 months to build a home. And if you've got buyers that want to close within 30 to 90 days, that just doesn't, the expectations are not being met. So, those buyers that are looking to close within 30 to 90 days might be willing to buy a house that's not necessarily every single thing that they want, but they want to move in sooner.
That's really good insight. That's good to know,
It's
because you would almost think maybe there wasn't as much urgency, but there's now more urgency.
Yeah, but the buyers that are taking next steps right now, logically, if you think through it, they're proving to be more high intent. They have to move for one reason or another, and so the sooner close, the moved up closing times makes a little bit of sense when you're thinking about that.
So if I was a builder and I had standing inventory, finding some way to highlight that would be a big win right now, because the people that need to move and they see like, I guarantee you can be in within 60 days. That's a big thing right now, versus the resale home that's down the street. That person might need to sell, like they might not get a new home. They might want to delay. Mm-hmm. My cousin just bought his house and bought a new one, sold his house and bought a new one. And the people that were moving out were building their own home, and it was a custom home. They kept getting delayed and delayed. He didn't close for 9 months.
Ouch.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he was still trying to sell his old,
Yeah.
and they just kept having to push everything back. He went through 6 buyers for his townhome he was trying to sell.
Horrible.
Right? But like, if
Yeah,
I
what a
knew that I
nightmare.
could come and buy a home that I was guaranteed to be in,
Yeah, that certainty is kind of a big deal, especially when you've got a house to sell. Yep.
all right. So find some way to highlight that you have something that people can move into quickly.
Oh, and there was so much cool talk about creative financing options. If you can advertise an interest rate that's lower than what a resale home can get, that's pretty popular. Think about that. Just what an amazing way to grab those eyeballs and get that limited customer base going towards you.
We were talking to consumers about interest rates the other day, and we were surveying them, and a lot of people have just left the market because they don't think that they can afford the home that they need anymore, and they're going to figure it out through renting or whatever. But they're still checking Zillow every now and then to see what's happening. Did that home that they love go off the market? But they're not necessarily actively looking anymore because they think that interest rates have knocked them out. So if you are doing a interest rate buy down promotion and you're not screaming it from the rooftops, telling those consumers that think they had to give up, that they don't have to give up, then that's definitely a missed opportunity.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right, so I think we have about 10 minutes left. So I want to take some time and look. I know you don't have a magic crystal ball. None of us do. Maybe we have like an 8-ball. That'd be fun. We should have gotten an 8-ball. But looking forward, we're 2022. 2020 was a weird year.
Super weird.
Very weird year. 2023 is projected to be maybe a little bit slower, a little bit scarier year for the consumer. And then even maybe looking into 2024, like what, if you had to give advice, if you were a builder, what would you be doing differently to talk to the consumer? How would you be talking to them? Like, what are some things that we could do?
Yeah, I think adopting technology, while scary and expensive, I think that's what you have to do, is go find what your competitor's not using and use it. And there are still buyers out there, so all you have to do is work a little harder to get their attention. And I don't know, the bar is pretty low with home builders and the technology that they adopt. So just even adopting that much more gives you a leg up. So adopt it. Self-tour is going to be a must. All the big builders, we just had a meeting with our advisory board last month, and all of them are adopting self-tour technology. So that's another one that I would definitely say it's going to be a must-have eventually. So probably time to jump on that train now.
And so when it goes to technology, specifically for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about helping the consumer visualize what might or might not be there, what they could make of it, and really selling the dream. Like, that's really where the technology could lean in, right?
Absolutely, and it's highlight the community. We've learned so much through the pandemic what consumers are expecting from a new community, and I think builders don't do enough to highlight the great stuff that they're building.
Yeah.
So, what is going to appeal to today's buyer? And it's social, it's the personalization of their own house, but like the community feel, the community living too. So.
Well, and I think that's really important too, because some people, as we've been doing research at John Burns, is to talk to them not only about their home, but about their community. And sometimes what we're hearing is like, no, I don't need that flex space to be a gym because the community has a gym. And I'm perfectly okay working out with my neighbors. I might even prefer it. Or if my community doesn't have somewhere for me to walk my dog, it's a deal breaker. And leaning into what's surrounding it, even if it's not something that you personally built or the community that you're in, knowing that if you're building a 55 plus community, knowing that the closest hospital is a 10-minute drive away gives them a peace of mind. Little things like that can help them envision how and what their day-to-day life is going to be like in that community or within the local area. Like, what's 5 minutes away? What's 10 minutes away? What's walkable? What's a short drive if you're in a big cycling community? Are there safe streets to cycle on? Whatever it might be that is what your consumer desires, don't forget to highlight those things, even if they don't fit on their lot or within their walls, right? Like, giving them that visual of what's happening. Any questions? I have more questions, but any questions from the audience? She's bringing the mic to you.
Thank you. This is for both of you. Not exactly your bailiwick, but based upon your primary research with buyers, if you were designing a website and you've talked about the things that catch people's eyes, do you want to just share, again, not exactly your thing, but if you were a builder and if you were, a small, mid-sized, 50, 100, 150 homes a year and trying to differentiate yourself, what are some of the things you'd like to see on your landing page based upon your research that could get people's attention, and then maybe some priorities, and then next and next and next? Thank you.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I love this. I spend a lot of time doing direct-to-consumer marketing, and if you truly understand the persona of your shopper, it will direct what your website needs to buy. And so I always look at it as a bullseye. So you might have 3 personas that you're trying to reach out to. You might be reaching out to a single mom who drives a Prius, who has 2 kids. Some builders really have this well-defined. You might be trying to target the empty nesters that aren't ready to retire yet. Their kids don't have kids yet, but they don't necessarily need all the space anymore. So they're looking for like a 5 to 10 year home before they decide where they're going to retire, right? And so as you start to understand who your consumer is and you dig into their persona and what matters, you might have the retiree who just had their 3rd grandkid and they've decided they're moving across the country because that's where their kids are, right? So it's like, what is it that's motivating their move? And what is it within their lifestyle that's shifting, that's causing that shift? So at John Burns, when we do research, we do it in life stages. We don't ask, it's very rare that we ask people when year they were born. What we ask them is, what's your life stage? Are you a young single or couple and you haven't had kids yet? Do you have a young family? So do you have kids under 11? Do you have a mature family? Do you have kids that are over 11? Or are you a retiree or empty nester, so your kids have left, or you never had kids and you're approaching retirement? And those are the 4 life stages where people really make big shifts in how they live their life and what needs their home and community has to fit into. And so you have to understand who that person is And that's the messaging that you need to put on your website. So if you have a young family as your target demographic, and you know that's who's moving in to your neighborhoods and your communities, and you don't have something in there about where your kids are going to store their toys, where they're going to do their studying, and how they're going to take a bath every night, and that's not the message you're driving home, you might have a missed opportunity. If you don't have if you're trying to reach out to somebody who's approaching retirement or already retired, and you're not talking about curbless showers and where the grandkids are going to sleep while they're there, you have a missed opportunity, right? So it's like, it all starts with understanding who your target is. And so, like, back to the bullseye analogy, you're trying to hit this bullseye, right? Like, but you might, just because you're aiming for that, I mean, I'm a really bad darts player, so, or if you guys haven't done like axe throwing, I'm also really bad at that. You might be trying to hit that bullseye, but you're going to hit the other people who are adjacent to that find similar values to that, right? So, like, aim for who your target is, and you're going to hit the other people who have similar desires.
Good answer. Good answer. Yeah.
You're just
Way
like,
better than what I
"And
would
there
have said. Yes.
we go." Anything you want to add?
Nope.
Any other questions? Any issues? I mean, we can sit here and problem solve. Anything that anybody's working through right now and trying to attract consumers, you just want to spitball with us, because we've got time. You guys are quiet this morning. Everybody gets another coffee before lunch. All right. One question over here. Oh, I couldn't see you for the podium.
I know, and the lights are like blinding this way.
Do you have any stats on video versus the 3D tours?
Yeah,
My
that's-
agents are saying that buyers are lazy. They don't want to click through 50 photos. They just want to watch it.
I think they want all that, because everybody's a little bit different in how they want to shop. Video is interesting. I think if they're well done, that kind of gets bucketed into the 3D tour numbers, where you will be getting more views and more saves, because that content's just additional content that helps the buyer see, feel, touch. We had a video walkthrough product for a while, but it was pretty choppy. They weren't well-produced videos. It was like an agent walking through with their iPhone. And so we got a little bit more engagement, but we took them down because it wasn't how we wanted to brand ourselves to our consumers. But if they're well-done videos, or like drone videos, those will be getting double the views, triple the views.
So it's not just about having it, it's about having it and it visually be appealing.
Correct.
Okay. So so here's my takeaway from what you just said. If you have to choose between great photos and a bad video, go for great photos.
Absolutely.
If you have to choose between a mediocre video and a mediocre set of photos, maybe do both.
Or just amp it up and do really good everything. If you think about how real estate agents are marketing resale homes, they market them beautifully. And so new construction has such huge opportunity to do the exact same thing. There's so much technology that you can adopt. Even if you're just selling a plan, you can go get that plan built out into something that looks and feels like a real listing.
All right, so we have time for one more question. An ideal time?
An ideal time, so.
60 seconds.
I'll link.
Oh, under 2 minutes. Yep.
Isn't that the time span for everything right now?
Yeah.
It's like
about my
anything
attention
longer
span.
than 2
Yeah.
minutes, and I'm like, over here.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 minutes.
Any other questions? All right, well, that wraps it up.